Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now, welcome back. Now, it is the second part of our ongoing discussion regarding the concepts of the drugs acting on autonomic nervous system. Previously, we know that autonomic receptors are of two types, cholinergic and adrenergic. Cholinergic were muscarinic and nicotine receptor, further subdivided M1, M2, M3. And I told you there are M4 and M5 also, and nicotine receptor and N and M. Then the adrenergic receptors alpha and beta, alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, and dopaminergic receptor also were included with adrenergic, which were dopamine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even more than that. Now, today, first thing is we must remember this thing that we have two categories of receptors, either stimulatory nature or inhibitory nature. Stimulatory means when they are activated by the transmitter or the agonist, they increase the activity of the tissues on which those receptors are present. Now here we are observed that muscarinic M1, alpha 1, beta 1, and all 1 types are stimulatory in nature. So wherever these receptors will be present, the activity and function of those receptors of those sites will be increased because the receptor present on them are stimulatory in nature. Why? Now here the inhibitory receptors, they decrease the activity when the neurotransmitter or the agonists are binding them and activating them. But their nature is inhibitory, so the result will be inhibition of the tissue, inhibitory effect of the tissues on which these receptors are present. So muscarinic 2, alpha 2, beta 2, so two types of these receptors are having inhibitory nature. Now muscarinic receptors, for example, M1, they are stimulatory nature and they are present on CNS. So due to the nature of stimulation, when they will be activated, result will be excitation, which will be manifested in the form of tremors or rigidity of the skeletal muscles, which are being supplied or controlled by the nerves present there, and the learning process also. So they increase in learning, so dementia is improved. So M1 receptor present here, because they are stimulated in nature, they will increase the activity. Similarly, they are also present at the level of gastric glands, and their activity especially is they increase the secretion of HCl. One third means actually the total production of HCl is not only under the control of M1 receptors, they are also partly under the control of histamine 2 types of receptor, H2 receptor, and at the same time proton pump functions. So anyhow, up to 1/3 of the total HCl production is under the control of M1 receptor, so which are stimulated in nature, so they will increase the HCl secretion, and they may add in the acidity of the person. Now M2 receptors, they are inhibitory in nature, two types. So mainly they are present in the heart at the level of SA node, AV node, and atrial muscles. So what we observe, heart rate is decreased, atrial contraction is decreased, conduction velocity of especially atrioventricular node is decreased, and there may be slight decrease in the ventricular contraction also, and ultimately slight decrease in the cardiac output. All are seen when we give some intravenous doses of agonist of M2 receptor, and they will produce this effect directly at the level of M2 receptors on the heart. At the same time, decrease in all these things, we are also observing the refractive period is increased. The time which is required to produce any response, that is decreased now. So ultimately, even we have seen in few cases cardiac arrest occur. As far as the arterioles and venules are concerned, they produce dilation of these sites. But this vasodilation occurs through release of EDRF, endothelial derived relaxing factor. So due to vasodilation of arterioles, there will be decrease in peripheral vascular resistance and decreased blood pressure, especially diastolic. And reflexively, there may be increased sympathetic discharge. And this discharge is further added by presynaptic and M1 activity, which will also modulate the sympathetic activity. So it may further complex the picture. The indirect effects, these are observed especially by the hemostatic reflexes that are produced due to these changes, decreased cardiac activity, vasodilation of arterial veins, etc. etc. So accordingly, when the reflexes are activated, now the effects on the heart rate and other things may be varied, either decrease or increase, depending upon how much reflex is activating the cholinergic or adrenergic. Now, pilocarpine, this is, for example, a drug or agonist which act at the level of M2 receptor when given. Apart from its effects on the heart rate, which was decreased as we have seen previously, on the blood pressure, because it produces vasodilation at the level of arterioles of venule through release of EDRF. So what we have seen, after a brief initial hypotension due to vasodilation, later on it may produce hypertension due to excessive sympathetic discharge when this pilocarpine acts and activates the presynaptic M1 receptor present on the autonomic ganglia, especially the sympathetic side. Now M3 receptors, again, they are stimulatory in nature. Now these receptors are present especially at the level of smooth muscles of these sides, eye, respiratory system, GIT, gallbladder, urinary system, etc. And because these M3 receptors are stimulatory in nature, they will increase the activity of smooth muscle in the form of contraction. So contraction will occur in the eye, contraction of ciliary muscle, especially constricted muscle pupilla, it will produce meiosis, and contraction of the ciliary muscles of eye, obviously when that will contract, we will see later on also, then the sphincters present at the site of ciliary muscle, they will be stressed, and opening of the canal of Schlemm, canaliculi will occur, and that will facilitate to the flow of aqueous humor that may lead to decrease the intraocular pressure. So that is why these drugs are used not only to produce meiosis for different problem of the eye, at the same time they decrease the intraocular pressure. That is why they are used in case of glaucoma. Yes. Now on the respiratory system, we know because smooth muscles are present on all the sides, including trachea, bronchi, bronchiole, etc. So when contraction will occur, they may produce bronchospasm. So that may narrow the air passages. So cholinergic activity when increased or when agonist given from outside, they may producing the bronchospasm worse the state of asthma-like patient. Similarly, GIT. Here, smooth muscle are present not only of longitudinal and circular, but also at the level of stomach, oblique smooth muscle. So contraction of all these muscles will actually increase the activity or motility of GIT. At the level of gallbladder, again, contraction of the smooth muscle gallbladder. So contracting it, and usually when bile is present in that, they will produce evacuation of gallbladder content, that the bile will enter through bile duct into the duodenum. In the urinary system, the urinary bladder body is contracted, but sphincters of these sides are relaxed. Remember sphincters, whatever the sphincter is present, whether at the level of GIT, for example, that pyloric end or ileocecal junction, sphincter relaxed because muscles of the body were contracting. So to help the evacuation of the viscera, the sphincters are relaxed. Similarly, at the level of sphincter of Oddi, common bile duct, so that is also relaxed. And the same thing happens in case of urinary bladder also, sphincter is relaxed. So body contracts, sphincter relaxed. So evacuation of the viscera, the urinary bladder, having urine inside. So there is voiding of urine. Now, apart from smooth muscles, these M3 receptors are also present on glandular glandular secretions involved. So there is increased glandular secretion because M3 are stimulatory in nature. So increased secretion at the level of salivary gland, lacrimal, bronchial, and sweat glands. So increased saliva, increased lacrimation, increased bronchial glands. Now here you can see with the smooth muscle there will be bronchospasm, and there is also increased bronchial secretion which will be secreted inside the lumen of the respiratory passage. So contraction was narrowing the air passages. Accumulation of secretion will further narrow the air passage. So both these things when combined they will worsen the state of spasm and can worsen the condition of asthma. So anyhow, then the sweat gland. Now remember, receptor present at the level of sweat glands are M3 in nature. But the nerve supplying the sweat gland, that is adrenergic in nature, remember. So that is why when sympathetic activities increase impulses are coming through those nerves to the sweat gland. But here, receptor present at the level of sweat glands are M3 in nature. So if these receptors are blocked by, say, atropine we have discussed, so there will decrease sweating. So although there may be increased sympathetic activity behind, but due to the blockade of the M3 receptor, sweat gland secretion will decrease, and that may lead to raise the body temperature, because we know sweating is helping in reducing the body temperature. Now, nicotine receptors, NN, and second word NM. Remember, these both are stimulating nature. So NN, which are stimulating nature, present especially at brain and spinal cord. So obviously, due to stimulating nature, they will increase the activity at the level of brain and spinal cord. So they may produce alertness. Even stimulation may lead to produce some sort of tremors or even convulsions. Present at the level of ganglion, both sympathetic and parasympathetic. So they may produce hypertension and alternating tachycardia and bradycardia, because both sympathetic and parasympathetic are stimulated at the same time. So both will try to produce their own effects. So depending upon the activity at particular time, either they may be tachycardia or bradycardia. Tachycardia due to dominance of adrenergic, and bradycardia at that particular time dominance of parasympathetic. And at the same time, there may be nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and vitamin urine, all due to excessive activity of the parasympathetic nervous system due to stimulation at the level of an receptor present ganglia. At the level of adrenal medulla, we know adrenal medulla is also a modified form of the ganglion. So they are also having the same N receptor, which are stimulating nature. So when adrenal medulla activity is increased, because here especially epinephrine is being stored, so there will be excessive release of epinephrine, and that will be released in the blood. So due to an N present of adrenal medulla, excessive activity of epinephrine in the blood will be seen in all the body parts where epinephrine is binding and show its effect. An M receptor, as I told you, this is also stimulating nature, but this is mainly present only at the level of neuromuscular junction. So due to stimulating nature, they will produce the contraction of the muscle fiber. So if smaller group are involved, there may be just fasciculation. But if a larger group of skeletal muscle is involved, so there may be strong contraction of the entire skeletal muscle. That may produce some cramps in the skeletal muscle. But we have seen there are some drugs which may produce persistent depolarization at the level of an M level. So persistent depolarization is ultimately manifested as a sort of blockade that may lead to produce then flaccid paralysis. That aspect we will discuss when we will discuss the drugs acting on skeletal muscles. Now, this contraction of skeletal muscle is used in myasthenia gravis, because we know in myasthenia gravis the contractility of the skeletal muscle of a particular group is decreased. Patient is unable to produce its motor activity. So we can use an M stimulant, and we will discuss later on inshallah. So these drugs may be used in case of myasthenia gravis. Now let's see effects on some systems now collectively. We have seen central nervous system is having both types of muscarinic and nicotinic. Muscarinic, especially in the brain, M1, M2, M1 stability, M2 inhibitivity, but dominance is usually a stability in nature. But anyhow, we can observe both excitatory and inhibitive effects. So there may be tremors and rigidity. But at the same time, we have seen learning is improved. So that is why these drugs may be used in Alzheimer's disease or senile dementia, etc. Decreased memory or loss of memory. In spinal cord, here especially only an N are present. So stimulatory nature produce alertness or even tremors or convulsions as we have seen previously. Peripheral nervous system, that is at the level of ganglia, and N are present. So ganglia of both sympathetic and parasympathetic are stimulated. So when sympathetic, there will be hypertension, tachycardia. When parasympathetic ganglia are stimulated, there will be nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and voiding of urine, and even excessive salivation may be there. Now, adrenergic nervous system. We already know adrenergic nervous system is dominant on CVS. Now, let's see what is happening at the level of receptor. So, remember, adrenergic intensity is dominant, especially at the level of alpha-1 receptor, and we know alpha-1 are stimulating nature. So first of all, the most important site on which alpha-1 are present, that is arteriole. So due to stimulating nature, they may produce vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction of all these sites, especially skin, mucosa, abdominal viscera, renal vessels. So severe vasoconstriction of all these sites. And also at the level of skeletal muscles also. But anyhow, very little vasoconstriction at the level of coronary and pulmonary. But the net result is there is severe vasoconstriction of all these sides, which may lead to increase the peripheral vascular resistance. And this peripheral vascular resistance will obviously lead to increase the diastolic blood pressure. So anyhow, due to increased peripheral resistance, at the same time, we may observe some stress on the heart. What we say afterload of the heart. So afterload of the heart is also increased because now the heart has to pump against the resistance of the vessels through which blood is flowing. Now the other side, especially the systemic veins, they are also having alpha-1 receptor, which are stimulating nature. There will be constriction of the systemic veins. So that may produce increased venous return. So increased venous return obviously will lead to increase in stroke volume. So increased return, increased stroke volume, this may add into increase in cardiac output. Next is neck of the bladder, specifically alpha-1 subtype A is present here. So anyhow, when contraction of these neck of the bladder muscle occur due to activity of these receptor, retention of urine may be seen. Similarly, radial muscles of iris, here they will contract in such a way because they are inserted on outside side. This side is free. So when they will contract, they will contract like that. So result will be from contraction outside, there will be widening of the aperture, that is dilation of pupil, mydriasis. And next is aqueous humor. So due to stimulating nature, outflow is more and more. So total pressure of intraocular pressure will decrease. So decrease intraocular pressure, that way may help. This effect may be used in case of glaucoma. Alpha-2 receptors, inhibitory nature. They are mainly present at the level of medulla and terminals, medulla oblongata and terminals. But here, first of all, they are one side, they are present at the presynaptic side, and then later we will see postsynaptic also. Now, presynaptically, they are inhibitory nature, so they will decrease the sympathetic activity which is coming out. So sympathetic outflow is decreased from the higher center, from the medulla oblongata. So the activity of sympathetic will decrease throughout the body. In the nerve terminals, we also observe decreased sympathetic activity. So whatever the nerve supplying to those organs, there will be decreased sympathetic activity. But reflexively we have seen, to balance it, there is increased cholinergic activity, increased vagal tone. So alpha 2 receptors, which are inhibitory in nature, they are mainly present postsynaptically at these sites, ciliary epithelium, because ciliary epithelium is responsible for the synthesis of aqueous humor, so that will decrease, and that will decrease the intraocular pressure. So this effect can also be used in case of glaucoma. Similarly, beta cells of Ehlers or Langerhans decrease insulin production, there will be hyperglycemia. At the level of lipocyte, lipolysis is inhibited. Now beta 1 receptors, obviously they are also stimulating in nature. They are mainly present on heart, all the sides of heart, atria and ventricle. So we have seen increased activity of all these sides. That may lead to increase the workload on the heart, because we have seen there is increase in heart rate, positive chronotropic, increased force of contraction, positive inotropic, and increased this conduction activity also positive thrombotropic. Right? So due to beta 1 activity, we have seen increase in workload on the heart. So obviously this will demand the increased oxygen supply. So this effect may be seen very much important in case of angina pectoris. Now other sites where beta 1 receptors are present at the level of secretion of renin and ADH, both are increased. So that will increase the blood pressure obviously. Presynaptic sites of various adrenergic nerve ending will also be increased. So there will be increased release of norepinephrine at the level of peripheral vessels especially. On the GIT, because there is increased activity, there will be hyperpolarization. Now, hyperpolarization again is a sort of inhibition. There will be relaxation of GIT. Beta 2 receptors are inhibitory in nature. So mainly present postsynaptically at the level of different sites. So there will be relaxation of the smooth muscles of especially bronchi and tracheal smooth muscle. So due to relaxation of these sites, obviously this may help in relieving the bronchospasm in case of bronchial asthma or COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Also present at the level of uterine smooth muscles. So they may relax the contraction of smooth muscles. Although clinically little importance, but academically we must know. So they may show some role in case of threatened abortion when there is excessive contractility of uterine muscle is seen. So to relax them, we can give beta 2 agonists. They will activate the beta 2 receptors of uterine smooth muscle, so they will produce relaxation. Other sites of beta 2 receptors are especially blood vessels. So because they are inhibited in nature, so blood vessels of liver, skeletal muscles, ciliary all will be dilated. So there will be increased blood flow locally at all these sites. Increased blood supply to the liver or the skeletal muscle and ciliary epithelium, because all need increased supply due to increased activity of these sites. But hemodynamically we see that peripheral resistance may decrease. So that may lead to decreased diastolic blood pressure. At the level of ciliary vessels, they will also dilate. So there will be increased aqueous humor synthesis, and they may increase the pressure, they may worsen the state of glaucoma. So here, if we want to decrease the intraocular pressure, what we will do? Yes, we will block the beta 2 receptor present at the level of ciliary vessels. So we will give beta blocker in such cases. Beta 3 receptors, stimulatory in nature, present at the level of adipose tissue, lipolysis is there, so they increase free fatty acid. And then nitric oxide release, that is also increased. So nitric oxide is a natural vasodilator. So when agonist is given, like nebivolol, through nitric oxide is acting, it will increase the release of norepinephrine through beta 3 receptor. and it may produce vasodilation. Now, apart from postsynaptic, let's see there are some presynaptic regulation of the receptor also. Two types of receptors are there: autoreceptors and heteroreceptors. Autoreceptor, as the name is indicating, is actually that is meant for related agonists. The related agonist is coming and binding to these sites. So obviously, when at the level of cholinergic receptor M1, M2 are present, only cholinergic agonist coming and binding to this. Similarly, at the level of adrenergic alpha 2 and beta 2, so adrenergic type of receptor, so adrenergic type of agonist will be coming and binding to this. But at the same time, we have also seen they may also present at the level of autonomic ganglia, etc., etc. So at their side, they may behave like heteroreceptors. So anyhow, but the pure heteroreceptors are which are non-related agonists. At the level of cholinergic, serotonin is present. At the level of adrenergic, dopamine receptors, angiotensin 2, ATP, adenosine type of receptor are present. So all will show their own effects by binding to these receptors, although present at different types of nerve ending. Now, let's see the hemodynamic changes, especially at the level of mean arterial pressure. Okay, how the body adjusts and what are the reflex changes occurring with the changes in the mean arterial pressure. We know mean arterial pressure is being controlled through autonomic feedback, that is through baroreceptor, vasomotor center, and sympathetic nervous system, and parasympathetic also obviously. But lower down, any change in mean arterial pressure is controlled through the hormonal feedback. From the upper side, obviously, vasomotor center, sympathetic is showing activity through peripheral vascular resistance, through heart rate, and lower this hormonal feedback is being adjusted through renal blood flow, this renin, angiotensin, aldosterone mechanism, both will lead to produce changes in the blood volume. At the same time, sympathetic also showing or modulating the venous tone. So venous tone changes and blood volume increase or decrease will affect the actually venous return, which will ultimately affect the stroke volume and cardiac output. So stroke volume along with the heart rate will obviously affect the cardiac output, and that will make the changes in the peripheral arterial pressure. There is also increased force of contraction if sympathetic activity increases. For positive signs are indicating increased activity. So when there is sympathetic activity reflexively from higher upper side, there is increased peripheral vascular resistance, increased force of contraction, increased venous return. Along with help from the hormonal feedback, all will lead to increased cardiac output and increased peripheral arterial pressure. And through parasympathetic, especially heart rate is decreased, so it may to some extent will affect through heart rate the cardiac output also. But we have seen dominancy of is adrenergic type. So this arterial pressure, if decrease, all activity will increase as we have seen here. But opposite will happen if mean arterial pressure is raised. Now the impulses going through baroreceptor through the vasomotor center of this raised blood pressure will try to decrease the activity of sympathetic through all these. Then the peripheral vasculature will decrease, heart rate will decrease, force of contraction will decrease, venous return will decrease, and similarly there will decrease activity of all these renin, angiotensin, aldosterone mechanism. So this we have already studied in physiology. Now let's have some more knowledge of different other types of neurotransmitters, especially at the level of enteric nervous system. Here substance P are present, which is a sensory type of neurotransmitter, tachykinase, neuropeptide Y, then the adenosine triphosphate, obviously acting at the level of different side. Nitric oxide we have already known from different aspects, mainly a vasodilator in nature, but at the same time, if present at the level sphincter, will be producing inhibition. Then cholecystokinin, excitatory at the level of antagonist and neuromuscular junction. Vasoactive intestinal peptide VIP, abbreviation is used, acts as both excitatory or inhibitory transmitter depending upon the site and the state. GABA and glycine both are inhibitory in nature, especially present in the higher center in the brain. So, especially at the level of presynaptic, and the glutamate as part of homocysteine, all are excitatory amino acids. So, especially at the level of NMDA receptor, etc. So, extremely powerful excitatory effects. So, even epilepsy may be produced due to increased activity of glutamate, aspartate, homocysteine. But they will inhibit the activity of brain. This activity may be utilized in case of barbiturate activity or this benzodiazepine activity that we will discuss later on, but we have this knowledge from physiology. Thank you very much. So after this brief outline of the brief concept of drugs acting on autonomic system, now we will go gradually in detail the drugs acting on different parts of the autonomic nervous system.